The day started like any other day on Earth. People woke up, cities were loud, planes crossed the sky, and screens showed news that felt important but was quickly forgotten. No one knew this normal morning would be the last normal moment for humanity. Somewhere far beyond Earth, something ancient had already made a decision, and its shadow was moving toward the planet. Humanity was unaware, busy with its small problems, unaware that history was about to break. At exactly 9:17 a.m., everything changed. Satellites across the world stopped responding at the same time. Air traffic systems froze. GPS signals vanished. At first, engineers thought it was a software failure, maybe a cyber attack. Then people looked up. The sky began to darken, not like clouds, but like space itself was opening. The blue faded into deep black, and stars appeared in daylight. Panic spread fast. Phones came out. Cameras recorded. Children cried. Grown adults stood silent, unable to understand what they were seeing. High above Earth, something massive slowly appeared. It was not a ship in the human sense. It had no clear shape, no engines, no fire. It looked like a giant floating structure made of light and metal, stretching across the sky. It did not attack. It did not move fast. It simply existed, as if it had always been there and humans were only now allowed to see it. Across the world, people felt the same fear, the same heavy pressure in their chest. Then the message began. Every screen turned black. Phones, televisions, billboards, even old radios activated. A calm voice spoke, not loud, not threatening, but cold and clear. The strange part was that everyone heard it in their own language. No delay. No translation. The voice said, "People of Earth, do not be afraid. We come in peace." Those words should have brought comfort, but they did not. The voice had no emotion. It sounded ancient, like it had spoken these words to many worlds before. Governments tried to shut the signal down, but they could not. The message continued. You call yourselves humanity. Your world is young, loud, and fragile. You stand at the edge of extinction. Those words spread fear faster than fire. Leaders gathered in emergency rooms. Soldiers were placed on high alert. Religious groups prayed. Scientists listened closely, already afraid of what might come next. The voice spoke again. A cosmic event approaches your system. When it arrives, Earth will not survive. People wanted answers. What event? When? How long? The voice did not rush. Your science cannot detect it yet. Your technology cannot stop it. Your weapons are meaningless against it. Around the world, silence followed. Humans had always believed that, one day, they would face aliens. But no one imagined the first contact would be a death notice. The voice then said something unexpected. We are not here to watch you die. We are here to offer salvation. The word salvation echoed everywhere. Some people cried in relief. Others felt anger. The voice explained that they were part of a vast alliance of civilizations, older than Earth, stronger than any human empire. They had seen worlds like Earth before. Worlds that thought they were special. Worlds that believed they could survive alone. Most of them were gone now. The alliance had rules. They did not interfere unless extinction was certain. And now, extinction was certain for humanity. In cities, people gathered in the streets, staring at the sky. Parents held their children tighter. Soldiers looked up, knowing their weapons could do nothing. Scientists argued quietly, checking data, hoping to find proof this was a lie. But deep down, many of them already knew. The technology behind the message was beyond anything humans could create. This was not a trick. This was real. The voice paused, as if waiting for humanity to understand its place. Then it delivered the final part of the message. You will be given a choice. You may leave this planet and join us. We will preserve your species, your culture, your knowledge. That sounded like hope. But then came the sentence that changed everything. Earth itself cannot be saved. Across the world, shock turned into anger. Earth was not just a rock. It was home. It was history. It was everything. The voice finished calmly. You have limited time to prepare. Listen carefully to what we will offer next. The signal ended. The sky remained dark. The massive presence stayed above Earth, silent and watching. Humanity had just heard the first words of its possible future, and deep inside, a terrible feeling began to grow. Salvation had been offered, but something about it felt very, very wrong. The world did not sleep after the message from the sky. Cities stayed awake through the night, lights on, people glued to screens, waiting. The dark sky remained unchanged, stars shining where the sun should have been. That silence was heavier than any explosion. Humanity waited for the next words from the beings who claimed to be saviors. Fear mixed with hope, and no one knew which feeling was stronger. At 6 a.m., the message returned. Every screen activated again at the same time. The same calm, ancient voice spoke. People of Earth, you have heard the truth of your situation. Now you will hear the terms of your salvation. The word salvation sounded different now. Less comforting. More final. Across the planet, leaders listened carefully, knowing every word could decide the future of their species. The voice explained that the cosmic event was not an accident. It was a chain reaction caused by forces older than galaxies. Entire star systems had already been erased by it. Earth was simply next. There is no escape for your planet, the voice said. But there is escape for your kind. The alien spoke of massive transport vessels, worlds prepared for human survival, and technology that could keep humanity alive for thousands of years. To many people, it sounded like a miracle. Governments asked questions through emergency channels. Who were they? Where were these worlds? Could humans live freely? The voice answered slowly, choosing words carefully. They called themselves the Union of Eternal Worlds, an alliance formed after countless wars across the stars. They claimed they had learned one lesson above all others. Survival was more important than freedom. Order was more important than choice. Chaos destroys civilizations, the voice said. We remove chaos. The offer became clearer. Humans would be relocated. Their DNA, history, and knowledge would be preserved. Cities would be rebuilt on new worlds, cleaner and safer than Earth ever was. There would be no hunger, no disease, no war. Many people cried when they heard this. A life without suffering sounded like heaven. On social media and in the streets, people began to say the same words again and again. At least we will live. Then came the condition. The voice spoke without emotion. Due to resource limits, only a portion of your population can be saved. The world froze. 10% of humanity will be selected. 10%. Not chosen by nations. Not by wealth. Chosen by the Union's calculations. The rest would remain on Earth until the end. Protests erupted instantly. Screams filled the streets. Parents held their children and asked the same question. Who decides who lives? The voice continued, unmoved by human emotion. Those selected will serve within the Union. Your kind will contribute labor, research, and service. In return, your species will continue. The word serve echoed in the minds of those listening. It did not sound like freedom. It sounded like control. World leaders demanded clarity. Would humans govern themselves? Could they return one day? The answer was simple and terrifying. No. Inside military bunkers and research labs, scientists listened closely. The language was careful, but the meaning was clear. Humans would not be equals. They would be useful, preserved like a tool, kept alive because they had value, not because they mattered. Some leaders wanted to accept immediately. Losing 90% was better than losing all. Others felt something breaking inside them. Was survival worth this price? Across the planet, debates turned violent. Families fought. Friends turned against each other. Some people prayed for selection. Others swore they would rather die on Earth than live under alien rule. Old flags were burned. New symbols appeared, painted on walls. Words like freedom, dignity, and choice returned to human language with new power. The voice spoke one last time that day. You have 48 of your hours to consider. This offer will not be repeated. Refusal will result in non-interference. Your extinction will proceed naturally. Naturally. As if death on a planetary scale was just a process. The message ended again. The sky stayed dark. Humanity had been given salvation, but it was not the kind found in prayers or stories. It was cold, logical, and cruel. For the first time since the message arrived, a dangerous thought began to spread quietly through human minds. Maybe extinction was not the greatest fear. Maybe living without choice was worse. While the world argued and burned with fear, a smaller, quieter battle began behind locked doors. In underground facilities, research labs, and military bunkers, humans searched for truth. If the union of eternal worlds was lying, even a little, that lie could change everything. Scientists, engineers, and analysts worked without sleep, driven by a single question. What were the aliens not saying? The Union had shared large amounts of data to prove their claims. Star maps, energy readings, and simulations of Earth's destruction. At first glance, the information looked perfect. Too perfect. A team of human physicists noticed something strange. The data showed outcomes, but not processes. Effects, but not causes. It was like being shown the end of a story without the middle. That absence made some people uncomfortable. A global research group was formed in secret, connecting the best minds on Earth. They fed the alien data into human-made artificial intelligence systems. One AI, designed to find patterns in incomplete information, began to behave strangely. It paused often, running the same calculations again and again. When asked for a conclusion, it returned a single sentence. Information structure suggests intentional omission. Someone had hidden something. As hours passed, the AI dug deeper. It compared the Union's data with ancient cosmic background signals stored in human archives. Slowly, a different picture began to form. The cosmic event was real, but it was not unstoppable. It was dangerous, powerful, and destructive, but not certain extinction. The Union had exaggerated the outcome. Earth could survive, but only with massive loss and radical adaptation. Survival would be hard, painful, and uncertain, but it was possible. This discovery shook the scientists. Why would the Union lie? The answer came when the AI decoded a hidden layer in the alien transmission. Buried inside harmless-looking reference signals was a control framework. It was a system designed to manage populations. Not rescue them. Manage them. The Union did not save civilizations. They absorbed them. More truths followed. The worlds the Union spoke of were not equal members of an alliance. They were controlled zones. Species were assigned roles based on usefulness. Strong species became soldiers. Intelligent species became researchers. Adaptive species became labor forces. Humanity, according to the calculations, was marked as highly adaptable, emotionally resilient, and physically durable. Perfect workers. The scientists shared their findings with world leaders. The reaction was chaos. Some leaders refused to believe it. Others felt sick. The Union had used the word preservation, but what it really meant was ownership. Humans would survive, but they would never choose their own future again. No children would be born without permission. No culture would evolve without approval. Humanity would exist, but it would not live. Outside the bunkers, the world continued to tear itself apart. People demanded answers. Protests turned violent. Faith in governments collapsed. In the middle of the noise, a quiet realization began to spread among those who heard the truth. This was not a rescue. This was slavery with a polite voice. The AI produced one final report. It analyzed thousands of historical cases from the Union's own hidden records. Every species that accepted salvation lost its independence within 3 generations. Their languages faded. Their identities dissolved. Eventually, they were remembered only as units of labor in Union databases. The AI ended the report with a warning. Acceptance equals extinction of autonomy. Time was running out. Less than 24 hours remained. Leaders gathered for the most important decision in human history. Some argued that dignity did not matter if no one was alive to remember it. Others answered that life without choice was not life at all. Voices rose. Fists slammed tables. History pressed down on the room like a weight. In one quiet moment, a single scientist spoke words that changed the room. "They fear something about us." Silence followed. The data showed it clearly. The Union avoided emotional unpredictability. They feared chaos. They feared beings who could not be fully controlled. Humans were dangerous, not because of strength, but because of will. The truth was now clear. The Union was not offering salvation to save humanity. They were offering it to protect themselves from what humans might become if left free. As this realization spread, something ancient woke inside the human mind. Fear was still there, but it was no longer alone. It stood beside anger, pride, and a growing, dangerous idea. Maybe humanity was not meant to be saved. The final day arrived under a broken sky. The stars still burned above Earth in daylight, silent witnesses to humanity's struggle. Time was running out. Less than 12 hours remained before the Union expected an answer. Across the world, governments abandoned secrecy. The truth about the Union was released to the public. Screens filled with the hidden data, the AI warnings, and the future that waited behind the word salvation. The reaction was explosive. Streets filled with people, not in panic now, but in anger. Some shouted in fear, others in rage. Flags were raised again, not for nations, but for humanity itself. Families gathered in homes, arguing late into the night. Some begged to accept the offer, believing survival was all that mattered. Others refused, saying they would rather face the end together than live apart as controlled beings. World leaders met in a global emergency assembly, connected across continents. This time, the meeting was not about strategy or politics. It was about identity. What did it mean to be human? Was humanity defined by breathing, or by choosing how to live? The room was divided. One leader spoke with shaking hands. "If we refuse, billions will die." Another answered quietly. "If we accept, humanity ends anyway." Outside, soldiers removed their helmets and stood among civilians. The line between authority and people disappeared. This was not a decision governments could make alone. The Union had offered a choice, and for the first time in history, the world agreed on one thing. Everyone deserved a voice. A global vote was announced. Every human, everywhere, could choose. Accept salvation or refuse it. The voting systems went live. Phones, computers, emergency terminals. 2 words appeared on every screen. Accept or refuse. No speeches. No campaigns. Just a decision. People stared at the options, hands shaking. Parents looked at their children. Old enemies stood side by side. Tears were common. Time moved slowly. As votes poured in, something unexpected happened. The numbers stayed close. Fear pulled one way. Pride pulled the other. Then messages began to spread. Simple messages. "I choose freedom. I choose us. I choose Earth." Artists painted murals overnight. Songs were sung in streets. Humanity remembered itself. In the final hours, a single broadcast was requested by the Global Assembly. A human military commander, chosen not for rank, but for respect, stood before the camera. He did not wear medals. He spoke calmly. "They offered us life without choice. Safety without future. If survival means becoming something else, then it is not survival. It is surrender." His words spread fast, crossing borders and languages. The vote ended with minutes left on the Union's deadline. The result shocked even those who believed in humanity. The majority had chosen refusal. Not by a small margin, but clearly. Humanity had spoken. Across the world, people hugged, cried, and prepared themselves. There was fear, but also relief. The waiting was over. The message was sent. A simple transmission toward the silent presence above Earth. No threats. No insults. Just truth. Humanity refuses salvation. For the first time since their arrival, the Union did not respond immediately. Minutes passed. Then the voice returned, colder than before. "You choose extinction." The commander answered without hesitation. "We choose ourselves." The signal ended. In space, The massive structures above Earth began to move. Fleets emerged from shadows, dark shapes against the stars. Weapons charged silently. There was no anger in their actions. Only calculation. On Earth, sirens sounded. Cities prepared for evacuation. Underground shelters opened. Scientists rushed to activate last defenses. Soldiers returned to their posts. Parents kissed their children. Humanity stood together under the dark sky, no longer asking to be saved. The day ended without explosions, but everyone knew what would come next. The choice had been made. The offer was rejected. Salvation was refused. And with that single decision, humanity stepped onto a path no species had taken before. The war for existence was about to begin. The moment humanity's refusal reached the Union fleet, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The massive structures above Earth shifted position, moving with slow, precise intent. There were no warning shots, no dramatic displays. The Union did not need intimidation. They believed the outcome was already decided. Humanity had chosen a path they had seen many times before. A short one. Across Earth, emergency systems activated. Underground shelters sealed. Power grids shifted to wartime mode. Old bunkers, once built for forgotten wars, were opened again. People moved with quiet purpose. There was fear, but also clarity. The argument was over. Humanity would face whatever came together. The first act of war did not come as fire from the sky. It came as silence. Communication satellites vanished from orbit, not destroyed, but shut down. Digital networks collapsed. The Union attacked the nervous system of civilization, not its body. Planes were grounded. Ships lost navigation. Cities went dark. The message was clear. Humanity was being isolated, cut off, reduced to its most basic state. Military commanders around the world expected this. Old technology was brought back online. Analog systems. Wired communication. Human hands replaced automated systems. It was messy, slow, and imperfect. But it worked. Humanity adapted, as it always had. What was lost in speed was replaced by determination. Then the first shots were fired. Union drones entered the upper atmosphere, small, fast, and silent. Human radar barely detected them. Missiles were launched anyway. Many missed. Some hit. When the first drone exploded over the ocean, cheers broke out in command centers. It was a small victory, but it mattered. The Union was not untouchable. The Union responded with precision strikes. Military bases, shipyards, and weapon facilities were disabled. Not destroyed completely. Just neutralized. They avoided cities. To the Union, humans were still a resource. They would not waste them unless necessary. This restraint confused human strategists at first, then angered them. The enemy was holding back. Humanity did not. Faced with extinction or control, restraint vanished. Nuclear weapons were moved into position. World leaders hesitated only once. Then the order was given. If Earth was going to fall, it would not fall quietly. Missiles launched toward Union structures in orbit. Bright trails cut through the dark sky, visible across continents. The explosions were blinding. Several warheads struck their targets. Union shields absorbed most of the damage, but not all. A massive structure cracked, spilling energy like blood into space. For the first time, the Union fleet adjusted formation. They had not expected humans to use their most destructive weapons so quickly. Retaliation followed. A Union beam struck a remote military zone, vaporizing everything within kilometers. The power behind it was terrifying. Yet even then, the Union did not target population centers. They still believed humanity could be controlled once resistance was broken. That belief would become their greatest mistake. On the ground, soldiers fought with technology decades old against machines centuries ahead. Losses were heavy. Entire units were wiped out. Still, humans advanced, repaired, rebuilt. Civilian volunteers filled roles once held by professionals. Engineers became medics. Teachers became operators. Humanity compressed itself into a single purpose. As the first day of war ended, the balance was clear. The Union had superior power, superior weapons, and superior numbers. Humanity had something else. They had unpredictability. The Union calculated outcomes based on logic and probability. Humans acted on emotion, sacrifice, and stubborn refusal to give up. In a captured transmission, Union analysts recorded a new assessment. Human resistance exceeds projections. It was a small sentence, but a dangerous one. Humanity was not fighting to win. It was fighting to deny control, to make the cost of conquest unacceptable. Under a wounded sky, with cities burning and stars still watching, humanity took its first step into open war. They had refused salvation. Now they would prove that choice, even in the face of annihilation, could be a weapon of its own. The second phase of the war began without warning. The Union had learned enough to change its approach. Precision was replaced with pressure. New ships arrived, sliding out of empty space like shadows gaining form. They surrounded Earth in wide rings, blocking escape and cutting off the sun's light even further. Days became darker. Temperatures dropped. Fear returned, but it did not break humanity. The Union shifted its strategy. Instead of disabling systems, they began systematic destruction. Power stations were erased. Water treatment plants vanished in silent flashes of energy. The goal was simple: break human infrastructure. Force surrender through exhaustion. From orbit, it was efficient. From the ground, it was horror. Cities struggled to survive. Fires burned uncontrolled. Food shortages began within days. Human commanders understood the message. The Union was done being patient. Humanity responded the only way it could: with sacrifice. Old factories were reactivated under rubble. Underground farms were rushed into use. Engineers created water systems from scraps. It was not comfortable. It was not safe. But it was alive. The first major ground invasion came soon after. Union landing craft descended into remote regions, avoiding cities at first. Their soldiers were tall, silent, and armored in smooth, dark shells. They moved with perfect coordination. Human forces engaged them with everything they had. Bullets slowed them. Explosives damaged them. But it was human creativity that mattered most. Traps, ambushes, and chaotic attacks confused Union units. They were not prepared for enemies who ignored their own survival. In one ruined city, a small human unit held a bridge for 6 hours against overwhelming force. They knew they would not survive. They stayed anyway. When the bridge finally fell, the delay allowed thousands of civilians to escape underground. The Union recorded the event as irrational behavior. Human commanders recorded it as victory. As battle spread, reports reached Union command. Humans were not retreating logically. They were not protecting resources. They were targeting symbols, supply lines, and communication nodes. Humans attacked where it hurt emotionally, not where it made sense strategically. The Union struggled to model this behavior. Then came the moment that changed the war. A Union cruiser was brought down over the ocean. It was not destroyed by advanced weapons, but by old ones used in a new way. Humans overloaded nuclear warheads, not to explode, but to disrupt energy fields. The cruiser lost control and fell, burning through the atmosphere before crashing into the sea. The impact was seen across the world. For the first time, a Union ship lay broken on Earth. Hope spread like wildfire. The Union did not respond immediately. They studied the event. They ran calculations. Their models shifted again. Humans were not supposed to adapt this fast. Captured Union soldiers were studied. Their biology showed heavy dependence on centralized command signals. When cut off, they became slow, confused. Humans had always operated with broken systems. Chaos was familiar territory. The Union had built perfection, and in doing so, had made itself fragile. As weeks passed, Earth suffered deeply. Entire regions became unlivable. Billions struggled for basic survival. Yet, humanity did not surrender. Every loss hardened resolve. Every victory, no matter how small, was shared, celebrated, remembered. Stories of resistance spread faster than fear. Union Command issued a new internal warning. Human emotional endurance exceeds expected limits. They began to question their original assumptions. Humanity was not just resisting. It was learning. It was changing. The war was shaping them into something dangerous. Under the darkened sky, with alien ships burning in the distance and human cities in ruins, a new truth emerged. Humanity was no longer fighting to survive. It was fighting to prove a point. That freedom, once chosen, could not be taken away by force. And in that choice, humanity was becoming the very threat the Union had feared all along. As the war dragged on, both sides changed, but not in the same way. The Union added more ships, more soldiers, more calculations. Humanity added something else. Desperation turned into invention. Fear turned into focus. In deep underground facilities, far from Union scanners, a project long considered impossible was activated. It had no official name. Among those who worked on it, it was simply called the unthinkable weapon. The idea was not new technology. Humanity did not have time for that. Instead, it was a new way of using what already existed. The Union fought with logic, prediction, and control. Humans decided to fight with unpredictability itself. Scientists studied Union behavior patterns and found a weakness. Union systems required stable input. They needed clean data. When exposed to chaos, errors multiplied. The weapon was not a single device. It was a strategy. Human forces began acting without central command. Units were given goals, not orders. They were told what to achieve, not how. Communication was intentionally broken at times. Conflicting signals were sent on purpose. To humans, this felt natural. To the Union, it was madness. The Union noticed immediately. Their predictive models failed more often. Expected human retreats became charges. Expected defenses became traps. Expected surrender became silence followed by explosions. The more the Union tried to control the battlefield, the less sense it made. At the heart of the strategy was human emotion. Rage, hope, fear, loyalty. These were not weaknesses anymore. They were tools. Soldiers fought not because it made sense, but because it mattered. Civilians supported them not because they were told to, but because they chose to. The Union could not calculate choice. The first true test of the unthinkable weapon came during an attack on a Union supply hub in orbit. Human commanders knew the hub was heavily protected. A logical attack would fail. So they attacked illogically. Small ships rushed in without formation. Some turned back suddenly. Others self-destructed early. Union defenses fired at targets that were no longer threats. In the confusion, a single human vessel slipped through and detonated inside the hub. The explosion was massive. Supply lines collapsed across an entire sector. Union fleets stalled. For the first time, Union Command experienced something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Not about numbers or power, but about outcome. They could not be sure what humans would do next. Captured Union data revealed growing concern. Internal communications showed disagreements among Union leaders. Some argued for total annihilation of Earth. Others warned that destroying humanity would remove a valuable resource. But a new voice emerged, quiet and worried. Human behavior is contagious. The longer the war continued, the more chaos spread into Union systems. On Earth, the cost remained terrible. Cities lay in ruins. Millions were gone. Yet morale did not collapse. Every success proved one thing. The Union could bleed. Humanity could surprise. The war was no longer hopeless. Union commanders deployed new countermeasures. Emotional dampening fields. Signal stabilizers. Control algorithms designed to force predictability. For a short time, they worked. Human attacks slowed. Confusion returned to human lines. Then humanity adapted again. Soldiers fought offline. Messages were delivered by hand. Plans were changed at the last moment. Chaos returned, stronger than before. The Union began to understand their mistake. They had believed intelligence meant control. Humanity proved intelligence could also mean adaptability. Humans were not stronger or smarter individually. But together, under pressure, they evolved. In one intercepted Union transmission, a commander spoke words never recorded before. They are not broken by suffering. They are shaped by it. This realization spread fear through Union ranks. Humanity was becoming something the Union could not manage. As the war reached deeper into space, the galaxy began to notice. Neutral species watched in silence. Some felt fear. Others felt admiration. A species that refused salvation, refused control, and turned chaos into a weapon was something new. Under the wounded stars, humanity pressed forward. The unthinkable weapon was not a machine. It was the human spirit, unleashed without limits. And for the first time, the Union of Eternal Worlds began to doubt whether they could win at all. The war reached a point where neither side could return to what it had been. The Union had lost ships, supply hubs, and confidence. Humanity had lost cities, billions of lives, and any illusion of safety. Yet the fighting continued, driven now by something deeper than survival. It was about meaning, about proving that choice mattered. Union Command decided to end uncertainty. A massive command vessel, larger than any seen before, moved into position above Earth. It was the mind of the invasion, controlling fleets, calculations, and strategies across the system. Destroying it would not end the war, but it would change everything. Humanity understood the risk. They also understood the opportunity. A plan was formed, not in one room, but across many. It was incomplete, dangerous, and depended on failure as much as success. Human forces would not aim to destroy the vessel. They would aim to reach it. Boarding an alien command ship was unthinkable. That was exactly why it might work. Small human craft launched from hidden bases and damaged stations. They did not fly in formation. They did not follow a schedule. Some were decoys. Some were sacrifices. Union defenses fired relentlessly, destroying many before they came close. But chaos did its work. Defense systems misfired. Priorities conflicted. A handful of ships slipped through. The boarding teams knew their chances. They went anyway. Inside the command vessel, the environment was hostile and alien. Gravity shifted. Walls reacted to movement. Union soldiers responded with perfect coordination. Humans responded with instinct. Close combat was brutal. Humans took losses, but they kept moving, adapting to every new threat. At the core of the vessel, they found the command intelligence. Not a machine, but a being. Ancient, vast, and connected to countless minds. It did not fight. It spoke. "You cannot win," it said calmly. "Your resistance only increases suffering." The human commander answered simply. "Suffering was your choice, not ours." The confrontation changed everything. The human team did not destroy the intelligence. They disconnected it. Union systems across the fleet flickered. Ships hesitated. Commands arrived late or not at all. For the first time, Union forces acted without guidance. And for the first time, they panicked. Outside, human forces attacked hard. Disorganized Union fleets retreated or collided. Some fired on the wrong targets. The balance shifted in minutes. The command vessel drifted, wounded but not destroyed. Humanity had done what the Union believed impossible. They had reached the heart of control. The captured intelligence was studied. Through painful communication, a truth emerged. The Union feared humanity not for its violence, but for its refusal to be controlled. Freedom, to the Union, was a destabilizing force. Humanity represented a virus that could spread unpredictability across ordered systems. The intelligence admitted something else. The cosmic event threatening Earth was real, but the Union had never intended to fully save the planet. Earth was expendable. Humanity was not, as long as it could be controlled. The admission spread across human networks. Rage followed. Union leadership fractured. Some fleets withdrew. Others fought harder. But the illusion of moral authority was gone. Humanity was no longer an inferior species being managed. It was a problem the Union could not solve cleanly. As the command vessel fell back into higher orbit, the galaxy watched. Stories spread fast. a species that boarded the heart of an empire and lived. Fear turned into respect. Some neutral worlds began to quietly help humanity, sending data, resources, and warnings. On Earth, people looked up at the sky, still dark, still dangerous. But something had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in spirit. They had proven that choice could break control. The turning point had been reached. The war was far from over, but the outcome was no longer certain. For the first time, the Union of Eternal Worlds considered a future where humanity did not kneel. The war did not end after the turning point. It changed. The Union no longer attacked with full confidence. Their fleets stayed at a distance, watching Earth like a wounded animal that might still bite. Humanity used the silence to count the cost. The planet was alive, but barely. Cities were broken. Oceans were filled with debris. The sky stayed dark, not only because of alien ships, but because of ash and dust hanging in the air. Billions were gone. Not numbers, but people. Families erased. Voices lost forever. Humanity had survived, but survival felt heavy. There were no celebrations. Only quiet work. People searched ruins for food and survivors. Children learned to walk in underground halls instead of parks. The war had stolen the future everyone once imagined. Nations no longer mattered. Borders meant nothing when the planet itself was wounded. What remained was cooperation or death. Human groups rebuilt communication by hand. Old radios. Cables pulled through rubble. Messengers on bikes and trucks. It was slow, but it worked. Humanity had learned how to live without comfort, without certainty. The Union tested Earth again. Small strikes. Probes. Drones sent into the atmosphere. Each time, humans responded faster than expected. Traps waited in silence. Hidden weapons activated only when needed. The Union lost ships to weapons that did not exist before the war, made from scraps and broken technology. Chaos had become human nature. Captured Union signals revealed something new. Fear. Not of human weapons, but of human influence. Other species within the Union were watching Earth closely. Some began to question their leaders. If humans were so dangerous, why were they still alive? If humans were wrong, why did their choice feel so strong? Small acts of disobedience spread inside Union systems. Orders delayed. Data lost. Control weakened. On Earth, a painful question spread among survivors. Was it worth it? Parents looked at hungry children and wondered. Elders looked at the ruins of cities and felt doubt. If salvation had been accepted, maybe fewer graves would exist. No one answered easily. Freedom had a cost, and humanity was paying it every day. Then a message arrived from deep space. It was not from the Union. It was from a neutral civilization that had stayed silent until now. The message was short. You chose pain over chains. We see you. There was no promise of help. No alliance. Just recognition. And it mattered more than weapons. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy's memory. Inside Union Command, panic grew. Reports showed rising unrest across controlled worlds. Humanity had become a symbol. A dangerous one. The idea that refusal was possible spread like fire. Some Union leaders demanded total annihilation of Earth to erase the example. Others warned that such an act could destroy the Union itself. The system was cracking. The cosmic event still approached. The original threat had not vanished. Scientists worked day and night on survival plans. Shields. Evacuation arcs. Last chances. Humanity faced extinction again, but this time on its own terms. Even if Earth fell, humanity would fall standing. Weeks passed. Then the Union fleets began to move away from Earth. Slowly. Carefully. Not defeated, but unwilling to continue. A final message arrived. Cold and empty. Continued conflict is inefficient. Humanity understood. The cost of control had become too high. Earth remained broken, but alive. Humanity had paid in blood, fire, and grief. But it had kept its soul. As survivors looked at the stars, they did not feel small anymore. They felt dangerous. And across the galaxy, civilizations took note. Humanity had shown that defiance had a price, but surrender cost far more. The dark sky over Earth slowly began to lighten. The Union fleets had withdrawn, leaving behind wreckage and silence. For the first time in decades, humans could breathe without the shadow of alien ships above them. But the victory was quiet, not triumphant. Cities were ruined, forests burned, oceans poisoned. Humanity had survived, but at an unimaginable cost. The planet itself bore the scars of war. Survivors walked through ruined streets. Parents searched for children. Scientists sifted through data, hoping to understand what had been won and what had been lost. For some, the silence was comforting. For others, it was terrifying. The threat was not gone. The cosmic event still approached, and the scars on Earth showed how fragile life could be. Yet humanity had learned something the aliens had never expected. Choice mattered. Freedom mattered more than survival alone. World leaders, or what remained of them, gathered in the remains of cities. Governments were no longer the same. Old borders had vanished. Alliances were made through trust, necessity, and respect, not politics. Plans were made to rebuild, to plant new crops, clean water, and restore communication networks. It was not fast and it was not easy. But humans were determined. This time, they were building for themselves, not for survival under someone else's rules. The cosmic threat approached steadily. Meteors, radiation, and storms battered the planet. Yet humanity endured. Underground shelters were opened, emergency generators fired, and scientists pushed every limit of ingenuity. Each problem was solved not with technology alone, but with human persistence, creativity, and will. Every life saved felt like defiance made flesh. Every child who survived carried the memory of those who had fallen. Humanity sent a message into space, a transmission broadcast far beyond the reach of the Union. It was simple. We are here. We are free. You may observe. You may fear. But we will not kneel. That signal spread quickly across the galaxy, intercepted by neutral civilizations who had watched humanity resist and adapt. Some feared them. Some respected them. The record of defiance, of refusing salvation and choosing war, became legend. Humanity was no longer a species to be controlled. Among survivors, stories were told. Tales of sacrifice, courage, and unyielding spirit spread from city to city, bunker to bunker. Children learned about parents who had fought, engineers who had saved cities with impossible inventions, and soldiers who charged knowing they might die. Humanity understood that survival alone was not enough. Living with choice, with defiance, with pride, that was the true legacy. The Union, observing from afar, realized too late that humans were more than they had calculated. Not stronger, not faster, not more numerous, but unpredictable. Adaptive. Emotional. Unbreakable. Where other species could be controlled through logic, humans could not. Freedom was a weapon in itself. The Union understood that any future conquest would come at a cost they could not calculate. Humanity had changed the rules of engagement simply by refusing to surrender. As the skies cleared, humans began to rebuild. New cities rose from the ruins. Knowledge was preserved, expanded, and shared. Art, music, and culture flourished alongside survival. Humanity had faced annihilation, fought impossible odds, and refused chains. Every action, every choice, was a message to the galaxy. They had not only survived, they had proven that life with freedom was worth any cost. Leaders, scientists, and civilians gathered in open spaces under the stars. The sky was no longer threatening, but full of possibility. They remembered those who had fallen, and they honored them by choosing to continue. This was more than survival. It was a statement. Humanity would not only endure. It would rise, stronger, wiser, and unbowed. In the distance, other civilizations watched, quietly taking note. The galaxy had learned something new. Humans were not easily saved, not easily controlled, and certainly not easily forgotten. Where others might bow to inevitability, humanity stood tall. Where others might surrender to fear, humans chose defiance. That choice, that stubborn refusal to be controlled, became their true power. And so, on a wounded but still living Earth, humanity looked forward. They did not know what the next century would bring. The cosmic event still threatened. New alien civilizations might challenge them. But one truth was clear. Humanity had refused chains, had chosen its own fate, and would continue to do so. The stars were no longer the limit. They were a stage. And humanity had learned the most important lesson of all, to live as themselves, no matter the cost.